was a Jewish king. He was very evil. His name was Menashe. Menashe became king when he was, you know how old? 12 years old. Wow. And he was king for 55 years in Yerushalayim. Vayas hara be'enei Hashem. He did what was evil in the eyes of Hashem. He even murdered his grandfather. He did terrible things. He killed all the Gedolei Hadar. He killed all the people learning Torah. He did all the abominations, all the terrible things that before we took over Yerushalayim, what the Goyim did. He did terrible stuff. But then all of a sudden, Menashe was in deep trouble. And he reached out to Hashem. When he was in deep distress, Chila es penei Hashem eleikav, he besought, he reached out for Hashem. Vayikone ma'oid milifnei elikei avaisav, and he humbled himself greatly before Hashem. We spoke about this a few weeks ago, about the ability, Vayachne ma'oid, that Yitzchak, with Rivka, how he was able to create that his wife could have a child. They were stuck against the situation, which was, we needed above supernatural tendency. And it says, Vayachne, Vayachtar. That was the shtickle over there. Over here also, Menashe, Vayichane ma'oid. He humbled himself greatly, milifnei alekei avaisav. Vayispal aleilav, and he prayed to Hashem. Vaye'aser loi, and he entreated Hashem, which is like we learned over there by the Parsha of Yitzchak and Rivka, Vayechtar, it's a lashon, Vaye'asar, the ayin is changed in Aramaic to ches. Vayechtar loi, he dug deep. And Vayishma tchinasai, and Hashem heard his tchina, his supplication, his bakasha. Vayashivei Yerushalayim machusai, and Hashem brought him back to Yerushalayim, to his kingdom. Vayeda Menashe ki Hashem hu Elikim, and Menashe knew Vayeda, and he knew Hashem hu Elikim. Over here we're dealing with Paroi. Each person, each one of us has a little bit of Paroi inside of us. Paroi says, V'lo yadu is Paroi. He didn't know Hashem. V'lo yadati es Hashem. Mi Hashem asher eshma b'koili. Paroi didn't want to know Hashem. Menashe didn't want to know about Hashem. But when push came to shove, and he was stuck, it says he reached out and he davened to all the different gods and nobody helped him. So he said, I have no choice. And he went ahead, and even such an evil person who did so much damage, even he, when he became humble in front of Hashem, and he dug deep within inside of him, he dug down deep to pray to Hashem, Vayishma tchinasai, because Hashem is always going to listen to us. And it's up to us that the worse we are, Hashem's still going to listen to us. We just have to become exceedingly more and more humble. And we have to become more and more deep, digging deep inside of us. But Hashem never wants us to be in the bottom. There is no such thing that Hashem doesn't allow us return. But how did it happen? Says Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Reb Shimon bar Yochai. We all know Reb Shimon bar Yochai. Rashbi, Lag BaOmer, we celebrate Reb Shimon bar Yochai. Listen what he says. What does it mean? Vayechtar loi, Vaye'aser loi is a lashon of Vayechtar. He dug. Hashem accepted Menashe. But so to speak, all the angels that were between Menashe and Hashem were blocking Menashe. He was so evil. They said, no, he murdered his grandfather, the Navi. He killed all the Tamid the Chachamim. He was horrible. He was terrible. So what did Hashem do? Vayishma tchinasai, he heard him. So he dug underneath the Kisei HaKavod. Hashem took out a saw, and he dug under the Kisei HaKavod a hole, and he reached down and he grabbed Menashe to pull him up, to save him. Of course, this is not real, it's metaphorical, it's a mashal. But this is what happened spiritually. Hashem put a hole in the heaven. Behainu. Ki Menashe achar shehirshiya kol kach. Menashe, after he did such terrible things, we will never be as bad as Menashe. Vayas hara be'enei Hashem. He did the ra, the evil in the eyes of Hashem. Shuv le'hoyo yochel achsar b'tshuva ba'ofen tivi al yedei ha'koiches ha'tivim. He could not return with tshuva to Hashem with regular koiches, with regular natural tshuva. U'tshuva se'hoysa al yedei ha'koiches ha'na'alomim ha'altivim. The way that he came back is he dug within himself, so Hashem dug to reach him. He had to dig down so deep inside of him to get so real Sometimes a person does regular averis, so to speak, and he says, Lach lanu avinu, machal lanu malkeinu, he does regular tshuva, fine. Sometimes you got to get so real. You got to really dig so deep inside of you. And then Hashem is going to pull you out of your misery, of your problems, and going to restore you like he restored Menashe. Not only he saved him, he could have saved him, but he's not a king. No, he saved him to become a king. He'll save you to become a king, to be a melech over your Medina, over yourself. Brings to mind the beautiful Vart, the word melech. It stands for mayach, leiv, and kaved. Melech, mem lamed chaf. Mayach is the brain, has to be shalat al halev, has to control your heart, your desires. And the leiv has to be shalat, has to control your kaved, your liver. It says in the Svarim that that's the makar of taiva. Everything comes from there. So a person has different difficulties. He has taiva, he wants to do something, or he has emotions that are bad, and he wants to do averis. But if he's a melech, then his mind controls his desires of his heart and of his body. And he stays in control. But the opposite of melech is kalim, chaf, lam, and mem. That the kaved, the liver, your body's desires is controlling your heart, and then your heart's desires are controlling your brain. Then you're the opposite of a melech, you're a slave. So it says, when Balak paid Bilam, remember that? And he paid Bilam, and he said, curse Klal Yisrael. And he was mechave, and he thought about the Shah, he only had a second. So what did he do? What was he going to say? He was going to say the curse Kalim, which means destroy them. So the Svarim say, he was saying he only had 1 second. He's going to flip Klal Yisrael around. Kalim, destroy them because their kaved, their liver, is going to control their desires of their heart, which are going to control their brain, and then we're going to be destroyed. When we are mayach shalat al halev, shalat al kaved, then we are truly a king over ourselves, over our lives, which is the greatest kingdom, to be a king over yourself. That's why when a person falls and does certain averis he doesn't want to do, it destroys his self-esteem because he realizes, I'm not in control. I signed over here, I said I don't want to do this, and I do it, so I'm not a melech. I'm a slave. I'm a slave to myself, to my body, to my desires. I'm a slave to whatever addiction it is, and that's why it feels super yucky, and that destroys self-esteem, and that's why we're not happy. A person whose mind is going to control his body, he's a melech, and he feels like a melech. That's why you look at tzaddikim, that they have self-control. They control themselves, and that's why they're so happy. There's a beautiful story that I heard from Reb Sheis Taub. He says a story of the famous tzaddik who was the Wunder Rabbiner. He was the wonder rabbi. He was called the Hushiyatne Rebbe. He was a big, big tzaddik, and he did a lot of meifsim. He went ahead, and he was traveling, and he ended up in Germany or in Austria. And there was somebody who was a guy, and he had a newspaper. He did interviews, and he went ahead and he heard about this famous rabbi that he's a Wunder Rabbiner. He's a wonder rabbi. So he went over to the Gabbai. He said, can I interview him? Can I speak to this Wunder Rabbiner? They said yes. So he approached the Rav, the Rebbe, Shatner Rebbe, and he said to him, I hear that you're a Wunder Rabbiner. What, pray tell, is a wonder rabbi? What is a wonder rabbi? So the Shatner Rebbe told him as follows. You know, sometimes you have a rabbi, and he's the rabbi of a congregation. His job is to control the congregation. Then you have a rabbi, he's in charge of the shtat, of the city. He controls the city. Then you have the rabbi of a Medina, the Rosh HaMedina, like in Eretz Yisrael. He's the rabbi, he controls the whole country. He says, then you have a Wunder Rabbiner. He controls himself. The greatest, highest level is one who can control himself. And that's what we're talking about. That a person who can control himself, Hashem restored Menashe. He took his tshuva, that he should be a melech, and Hashem will take our tshuva, make us a melech over ourselves, because there's never a situation that we are too bad for Hashem to go ahead and to love us. And we have the same story by Acher. Acher was the Rebbe of Reb Meir. Acher was so bad that he went in Shemayim. He was a big tzaddik. He was the Rebbe of the Tana Reb Meir, and he was OTD, went off the derech. But there was a baskol that went out and said, Shuvu bonim shoivavim chutz me'acher. We're now dealing with shoivavim. Shoivavim is a time of Shemais ve'er b'ay b'shalach yisrael mishpatim, and when we have a ibayar, it's truma tetzav shoivavim tat. It means fablonjid, those who are lost. And the baskol said, all my children that are lost come back, except for you, Acher. He was called Acher. That wasn't his real name, but that was the title that it was given, Acher. And what happened? Because he heard the baskol that Hashem is saying, don't come back, I don't want you, he was Nesiyayish Mitshuva. He gave up from doing tshuva. But the Svarim HaKadoshim say no. He was so bad that they made it harder for him to do tshuva. And they placed an obstacle in front of Acher. What was the obstacle? That he should hear that we don't want you. But that was just an obstacle. Ki asr hoyu la'acher lekabelas habaskol. Acher should have never accepted that baskol. And he should have known that there's no such thing. He should have done tshuva anywhere. As it says in Chazal, Gemara Psachim says, Kol ma sheyoymilcha balabayas aseh chutz mitzeh. We all know that whatever the balabayas tells you to do, you should do, except when he says leave. So over here also, listen to whatever Hashem says, but if he says, no, I don't want you, don't listen to that. Because that is an obstacle that is blocking you from coming back to Hashem. That's part of the Nisayin that you deserve because of the tremendous Averis that Acher did. The Sefer Reishis Chachma says, Balabayis Tahainu HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kol ma sheyoymilcha me'amitzvos haseh. Everything he tells you from the mitzvahs haseh, he tells you things to do, you should do. Chutz mitzeh, shim yoymilcha tzeh mi beisi v'al tikanes ke'inyan Elisha. Like by Elisha, which was Acher, Al tishmu loy al tikanes b'tshuva, el tikanes b'tshuva. There's the Reishis Chachma saying, everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells you, all the mitzvahs haseh, you should listen. Chutz mitzeh, except if you hear that Hashem says, tzeh mi beisi, I don't want you, you're not wanted, you should know. No, that is just an obstacle, another nisayin that you should know, no, I am wanted. V'hainu, shahaya olav ladas, that Elisha, who was called Acher, just like Menashe, and just like every one of us needs to know, Ki ratzin Hashem, what is really the will of Hashem? Lebal yidach mimenu nidach, then nobody should be cast away, there is no sin that you can do that makes you unwanted by Hashem. Nothing. Upirish chutz me'acher. And why did it say chutz me'acher? He comes up with a beautiful, beautiful explanation. Hainu sheba'ofen tivi ein loy derech tshuva. You should know that in a regular way, there is no derech tshuva for you. Aval hoyetzarech lehis amei tzu lahamim bekoiches al tivim. Shal yodam yuchel iskarev. He should have gone ahead and realized there's an acher. Shuvu b'avanim shevavim chutz me'acher. He should have known there's another way by digging deep down. He should have known that there's koiches al tivim, that through them you can return. Tamid yesh li Yehudi derech lashuv. There is always a way back to return to Hashem. Gam ki atzio sha'ol hineka. Even if you end up in the sha'ol, in the Gehenim, hineka, Hashem is there.